website. You said take any picture.
I never go to my website. I didn't know what they had there. Obviously, I need to go look at it sometime.
But we did. You saw the Twitter ones. So Fred, where's Dolby? There it is. Okay. And is Dolby here? If you are, unmute yourself. I don't know.
It's okay. Already in my DMs.
What's that? Is she here? No, we don't know. Casey Caprini, is she not in? She gets. Rebecca, do you know her?
Yeah, just from like getting emails from her. Did you?
Okay,
she was definitely going to be the one.
For us. Okay, so it's nice. Okay, so this is basically what they're letting us know. Maybe she's not going to speak, but normally, Stevie, we'd give somebody about 3 minutes, but the gentleman who would be speaking is traveling. I said, just give us something that we can let our group know that Dolby's supporting. So advancing diversity, inclusion, and belonging. At Dolby, we have committed ourselves to being a part of creating a more diverse and inclusive world of belonging. Different backgrounds, perspectives, and beliefs bring critical value to our business, and we're driven by knowledge that diverse talent enhances our ability to imagine, innovate, and grow. So thank you, Dolby, for being a sponsor. And without further ado, I am so excited to get my very longtime friend and very dear, amazing rock star, executive producer, author, StevieSalas. Everybody say hi to Stevie. Woo!
Hi.
People will continue to log on. So Stevie, since I've of course known you from your rock star days, let's take everybody through a little journey of your life starting in Carlsbad and playing in a band, and how you evolved working for one of the biggest music artists on the planet, and how your career has transcended into making this amazing film, and then some of your newer projects that I'm sure all of our amazing members would like to hear about. So let's take a little journey of StevieSalas.
You want me to kind of just do a quick briefing through?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm actually in Oceanside, California, where I'm from, where I was born, and I lived in Carlsbad forever, but sold my house there about 12 years ago. I live in Austin, Texas now, but I keep my boat here in Oceanside, and I'm actually here for the summer. And my family flying in tomorrow. But when I was a kid, I had a band in high school, like most people, and played high school dances and all that stuff. And then I graduated from high school, and I moved to Los Angeles in January of 1985. Lived in a friend's closet, in a walk-in closet, which was cool. When you're a kid, it was all badass. As long as I was in LA, it was great. And it was a big enough walk-in closet for a single mattress. It was cool. I was good with that. And then the girl whose house it was, the father worked at 20th Century Fox, and we didn't know it, but she was a drug addict. She lit the house on fire, and we all had to move out. So then by August, I was homeless. And so a guy called Rick Parada owned a studio called Baby-O Studios on Sunset Boulevard. And a guy that I was a big fan of called David Pahoa from a band called the Plimsouls wanted me to work with him. So they hooked it up so I could sleep on the couch at the studio at Baby-O as long as I cleaned up the practice room and swept and did stuff like that. So musicians were all working there, superstars. And I'd go up to them, hey, my name's StevieSalas. I play guitar. I'm like Gene Simmons, told me to go to hell and, all this stuff like that. And, when I was young, I had thick skin. I didn't care, right? So I'd go to the next guy and blah, blah, and he'd tell me to go F myself and get out of here, whatever. And people were gnarly. But it was funny. I didn't care. It was all like fun and games. So one night I went up to George Clinton from Parliament Funkadelic, and I said, hey, I'm StevieSalas, and I'm blah, blah, blah. And he goes, okay. That's all he said was, okay. Because I said, you ever need some guitar, let me know. And so I guess that night, he had a guy called Jack Sherman, who, rest in peace, Jack just passed away, I think, last year. But he was then the guitarist for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It was 1985. He was in the studio playing with George Clinton, with the guy called with the guy called David Spradley, and they did a song called Atomic Dog, which was a huge hit. And so I was asleep upstairs in the studio on the couch. And they came up and knocked on the door and said, hey, you want to come down and try some guitar at like 2 a.m? And I said, like, yeah. So I ran downstairs, and Jack Sherman was playing amazing stuff. But Jack Sherman was a huge fan of Parliament Funkadelic. And I only knew about him because the kids on my wrestling team in high school used to all that African-American. But this is like the Black Kiss. And I like Kiss, and I like Led Zeppelin or whatever. And I'm like, cool, okay. So that's the only thing I knew about him. So I noticed that Jack Sherman was playing this really amazing funkadelic style guitar. But George Clinton had done that for years, and he didn't want somebody doing an imitation of what he's already done. So I just went the opposite and went bananas and started doing all this crazy rock and roll stuff over his funk music. And next thing you know, I was his guy. And then everyone in LA thought I was this big time guy playing with George Clinton and Bootsy Collins, but really I was homeless. And so when they'd asked me to do a session like Bernadette Peters from Climax or somebody, I'd say like, yeah, I'm double scale. And they go, oh, sure you are. You play with George Clinton. And that's how I started. And within a couple of years, I became a staff producer for a guy called David Kirschenbaum because I knew a lot because of Funkadelic. I knew about hip hop music, which in 1986 and 87 was kind of unknown in LA unless you were, hanging out with the LA Dream Team and stuff down in Compton. And I knew a bit about hip hop. So David Kirschenbaum would say, oh, I'm doing a movie called Big Shots. I need some rap songs. They used to call it just rap songs, right? So I figured it out. And then through that, I met Thomas Dolby. And then I scored a movie with David called Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which didn't even have a distributor. And I thought it was a horrible movie. And then the ending was testing badly. So right before it came out, they called me and Keanu and Alex Winters went to this house in the Palisades and they set up the phone booth. And I shared a trailer with George Carlin. And we shot this thing in the end where they told me to stand in the crate and me and George Carlin dressed the same. And they shot me from here down and George from here up. And they told me to play some crazy guitar solo. So I literally played air guitar and they filmed it. Stephen Herrick, the director, filmed it. And that's all I ever thought about it. And next thing I know, it was the end scene of the movie. It's this crazy guitar solo I play. And, but it's supposed to be George Carlin.
I did not know that was you.
Yeah, that is me. And well, here's what you guys do now. Go watch Bill and Ted, fast forward to the end because it's a long, crappy movie. I mean, my favorite is when I have to be Keanu and Alex when they don't know how to play because I played the guitar left-handed to sound like that. That's another story. So go to the end and look at George Carlin's super white face and look at my super suntan Apache Indian hands, and you'll be like, "Oh my God, how come I never noticed that before?" He's got my hands, and it was summer. I would surf all summer. My hands were like brown, and George's face is super white. So now that you go look at the film, watch that, and you'll go like, "Oh my God, I never noticed that."
Okay, so I'm watching everybody's head nodding. They're all going to do it, I promise.
Fast forward right to the end. It's right at the end.
Oh my God! So, and I didn't know you worked with. I thought you just knew David Kirschenbaum. I didn't know you worked with him.
I was a staff producer for David. Yeah, I mean,
I was awesome.
there. One of my biggest mistakes I've ever made, and a lesson that I learned that I kept with me still to this day, is I don't disregard anything in Hollywood or New York or London, because in 1987 I was starting to become hot. Was Not Was had a #1 record, and I was a producer on a play called Walk the Dinosaur. And I was doing stuff, and things were happening for me. And David goes, I'm going to produce this weird record by this singer-songwriter. And just plays acoustic. Yeah, and she's a lesbian, and she's very shy. Nobody bug her because she's very skittish. So right away, I went out and said, hey, Stevie, what you doing? And we hit it off, and she was great. And she had an afro, and it was pre-dreadlocks, wearing Birkins. And he started to work on this first Tracy Chapman album. And he used my engineer, Kevin, who was only $10 an hour. He didn't want to spend any money because he was making a $60,000 record because nobody thought there was no market for that record because everything was Bon Jovi and Motley Crue and 80s rock was giant. And so he asked me to work on this record and I'd be like, yeah, I'm getting around to it. I'm trying to like date this model now, or I'm trying to do something. I'm going to a party. I'll be there tomorrow, I promise. And I wouldn't show up. And I popped in and I remember giving him some ideas, string arrangements for a song called Baby Can I Hold You? And I keep splitting. And then I remember like Peter Frampton came in to play on something. I'll be there, I'll play on it tomorrow. And I just never got around to playing guitar on the record. And I had no idea that this record, because who wants to play on this folk record? Everyone's doing Bon Jovi, man. I'm like, this is gonna be like a little, if it sold 20,000 copies, it'd be a success. The next thing you know, it comes out and sells 13 million copies. And it was the biggest mistake I ever made. And to this day, I never disregard anything because you just never know what's going to pop. You just never know. And I learned a good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So let me get to Heather. So then Andy Taylor quits Duran Duran and he hires me to be his guitar player. And he's going on tour with the Psychedelic Furs. Andy Taylor and I clash. We don't get along. He's super insecure and he's kind of a jerk. And he fires me right before the tour starts. I'm devastated.
Oh my God.
So I go to London. I get a recording contract for a development deal with Elektra. I go to London. And I start recording some of my own songs. I'm just going to do my own music now. Forget this. But then I get a call from Andy Taylor's manager, who manages Rod Stewart. And he says, why don't you audition for Rod? He's putting together a whole brand new band. And Rod happened to have a band that was all my heroes. Carmine Rojas from David Bowie's playing bass, whose poster was on my bedroom wall at my mom and dad. Still, I had his poster on my wall. I love Carmine Rojas. Tony Thompson, the Power Station, Eddie Martinez. They used to call me the young Eddie Martinez because I was doing rap music, remember, in LA in '87. And Eddie Martinez was the guy playing all the guitar and Run DMC. So I'm like, that's the band. And I get a call from Randy Phillips. I go down, I audition for Rod. Rod gives me stink eye, but he likes me. And I get the gig because I'm rocking with my heroes. But then they realized that I kind of sucked. I wasn't good enough. I'd only been in my high school band, you know? And so I couldn't play slide, I couldn't play this stuff. So they let me go. They hire an amazing guitar player named Jeff Golub, who became a god to me. And I was devastated. And then about 8 days before the tour, I kept having these dreams about Rod Stewart. It's weird, man. You know, I had these dreams like I was driving through the woods and I pull up to a cabin and Rod's there in a red Ferrari. Hey, Stevie, what's going on? He's like, it's weird dreams constantly about Rod. Like, this is something, I was obsessed with this. And sure shit, and Eddie Martinez decided to quit Rod Stewart and go back to Robert Palmer. Rod called me, and 8 days later, I was playing Miami Dolphin Stadium, and I sucked. But it was too late to fire me because the tour was on. And so I had to kind of get better really fast. And Carmine and Jeff Golub and those guys were like my big brothers because I was, 10 years younger than everybody else in the band.
Yeah.
At least 10 years younger. And that's, so then I flew into Dallas, Texas one night with Rod, and we used to party like crazy. And Rod used to teach me how to steal limousines. I was like his little mascot. And we meet a big, tall, blonde girl named Heather at the Hard Rock in Dallas. And she's running the VIP room. They used to call it the cheese room back then, I think, or something like that.
Cheese Club.
And Heather was she was like
I was the hostess.
Introduced us to everybody, and Heather like ran the town. And here we are 100 years later. There you go.
Right on. I did not know all that from the beginning part of that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you
yeah.
tipped with them.
Standard stuff, sold a few million records, played with Mick Jagger, did Michael Hutchins, I did a lot of stuff. And I did American Idol for a bunch of seasons as those kind of things. But the early stuff was the juicy stuff. Well, Mick Jagger was juicy too. Mick Jagger was juicy.
But then your time with Terrence was awesome. Your time with
Terrence
Julian was awesome.
Yeah, another one. Heather caused problems. So I lived in this main house with 4 bungalows, and Heather actually lived in Steven Spielberg's old bungalow that I found out that he lived in when he was making Jaws. So we had this Hollywood. Yeah. Because after you left, Heather, there was a film crew there filming, and I go, "What are you guys doing here?" And they go, "Well, we're doing a This Is Your Life thing for Steven Spielberg, and this is the house, the bungalow he lived in when he was making Jaws." And I even think they shot one of the water scenes with the dead person that popped out in the thing. I think they shot that in our pool, Heather.
In our pool? Wow.
I think so. Yeah, that's the story I got because it was added to the film.
You never shared that with me.
Yeah, I didn't know you didn't know. So yeah, so I lived in this place, right? And in my house, and I had the main house. It was a Yvette Mimieux, this 50s actress's estate kind of thing. And I had a jam room in the back in this main house, and there's 4 bungalows. And Heather lived in a bungalow. So when my rock star friends would come over, they'd all see big, tall, beautiful Heather. And they're like, who's that? And so Heather drove Terrence Trent. I don't know if you guys remember Terrence Trent D'Arby, but he sold like 20-something million albums. And I was his music director, and I was working on his new albums. He'd come to the house, and he'd be like, "Hey, you want to watch a movie tonight?" He'd call me. I'm like, "Terrence wants to come back to video at my house? This is weird." It's like not like Terrence. I'm not like, let's go to dinner. How about I bring a video? And what he was doing was he was going down to Heather's and inviting Heather to come watch the movie too. And so Heather would be like, oh, like you get all sit close to him and lead him on, and then she'd go, "Yeah, I gotta take off. I got a date." Or something. You go, "What is that date?" She drove him nuts. And I've never seen him he lost his cool so bad. So there's Heather for you again.
Yeah, because he was arrogant. I used to have fun.
a little arrogant.
So then your career kind of advanced. Obviously, and this is what I always admired about you. A lot of our friends, our mutual friends, they didn't do as well with their careers because they kind of shot up and then they didn't really keep themselves like on a career path, and you did. And I've always admired like you. I don't know, you kind of were smart with your business. A lot of these guys weren't smart businessmen.
You know, I didn't sell any records in America, which was heartbreaking to me, but I always had a recording contract, and that really kept me alive because I was selling tons of records in Japan and Europe. Yeah. But the thing, there was no internet then, so nobody knew it. They'd be like, how come, where's he get all his money? I think Steve Lukather thought I was a drug dealer. It's like, because there was no internet, so no one had no idea. I'd go to Japan, I'd make $200,000 a week, come home. And like, nobody knew, to them, I was a failure. Your record's bombing here. It's like, so I also, what kept me alive is I wrote songs, and I wrote songs for a lot of people, and I had a publishing deal. And when I produced Sass Jordan or a lot of people, I'd write the songs, and being a songwriter kept me in the game forever. And still to this day, when I do some writing, and that did it. And then I became a music director as well. So people would want me to play guitar on their tours, but I'd be the music director. I was a music director at American Idol. And that was a different sort of a thing that I could do. Like I could go play with Mick Jagger and all these amazing people as a musician, and then go back to my own personal career. Where a lot of guys just had their record contract, and when that was over, they had nowhere to go, you know, but I could play with really great musicians. So that made my career go a lot longer until I started producing television.
Does that make sense? So then how'd you get into to doing the movie stuff? Let's go down that path a little bit.
Okay, so I'm kind of like sick of music. I'm ready to retire. In 1999, I booked my band to play my last concert. It's going to be I'm on the headlining stage at the Fuji Rock Fest in Japan. This is going to be my last gig. I'm sick of music. I hate the business.
Wow.
I'm kind of rich now, so I got a lot of money. So I'm not thinking about. I'm thinking about retiring to the beach and surfing, and that's all I want to do. I hate the music business. I'm sick of people, you know, dealing with everyone's BS, and I was sick of it all. And I had my house at the beach in Carlsbad, and I was buying land in Costa Rica, and I'm ready to tune out. And I'm like, I'm probably 40 years old, 38 something years old. I'm thinking this is just enough. I hate this. And then I lost everything in the 2000 stock market crash, and I was like, oh my God, I have to go back to work. And that was like a gift from God. Mick Jagger called, and then that kind of was exciting. I was excited again. Like Mick Jagger was really exciting. And then I belonged to this club that surfed, and I was the only musician in it. It was all like the head of Island Records, the head of William Morris, huge lawyers, managers, agents, A&R guys, record company guys. And I was the only musician invited to be in this surf club. We'd travel around the world and surf. You know, we go to strip clubs and we'd surf and go cocktailing but we would hire each other.
Surfing. It sounds like a life, yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so when Sterling McElwain, who was the manager of Hanson, got asked to go join American Idol. I mean, American Idol to me was the enemy. But by the time it was 2006, you could see the writing was on the wall that the music business was plummeting. It was a disaster. And
for the art.
Yeah, as far as if you want to be a musician, you know, there's no more development. There's no more. It was just gnarly. And Sterling goes, I'm going to go work with this guy called Daughtry. Will you come to Idol and help me? So I said, yeah, I'll come to Idol and help you. Yeah. And so by then it was okay to do it, because if we did an Idol in 2000, like Mick Jagger wouldn't want to hire the guy who was working at American Idol. You know, it wasn't cool. But by 2006, it was the biggest game in town. It was the most highest rated TV show in the world. So I became a consultant there and a music director, and for four seasons. And I started to really look at what was going on with TV while I was there. You know, I'd show up and I still hated the show, but I'd show up and I just realized there was something going on. In 2006, I went to mix an album of mine in Winnipeg, Canada. And I'm a Native American. Yeah. And there's a network in Canada. One of the four major networks is called APTN, Aboriginal People's Television Network. And so I was somewhat successful, and the head of the television programming wanted to meet me while I was in Winnipeg. And so she came to the studio and we met, and she told me about the network, and I knew about it, you know, and she said, if you could do anything you want for a TV show, what would you do? So I said, I'd have a show where there's like a couple Native guys doing a variety show, and they're complete idiots and had no idea what they were doing. And next thing you know, about a month or two later, I got a call and they set aside $1 million and said, come make your show. And
Wow.
that simple, because I was indigenous and they knew that I had this global reach that was non-indigenous. And so I said,
Right.
you know, because I had said to them, I go, listen, man, you keep doing these shows with indigenous people doing inside indigenous stuff that appeals to indigenous people. I go, you already got that audience in Canada. I go, you need to show that culture to the world. And I go, you need to stop trying to get one native guy into the mainstream and start bringing the mainstream to Indian country, is what I said. And they liked that. So I did a show with me and an actor called Adam Beach and an actor called Eric Schweig. And we did this improv sort of a show where we had a variety show, and I'd have Motley Crue on. I'd have all my friends who were on the show. One person would always have a problem. You know, Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers was narcoleptic. He really wasn't, you know. And so it was like a scripted reality show where we worked basically, everyone got to act, but it wasn't on script. It was like we'd have a headline, and that's when we would improv. And you realize that these musicians had so much charisma, where if you made them read lines, it wasn't good because then they weren't themselves. But if you let them be themselves and just ad lib, it was amazing. And, you know, Matt Sorum had to have these special cantaloupes flown into the Yukon, or he wouldn't play. And all these problems that we'd have, you know. And Tommy Lee had these 3-dimensional underwear with a Sasquatch on them. And he really had them in his dressing room. I found them. And so we made it up to where Eric's grandmother wanted the Tommy Lee Sasquatch.
I just sent you a...
Yeah, Tommy Lee wouldn't give them to her. And so when Tommy Lee went on stage with Motley Crue, which he really did, and we had cameras filming, we also filmed, and he set it up, and it didn't look like that. I would kick his door in, I go in, I steal his underwear. You know, it was stupid stuff like that. And the show ran for 3 seasons and was voted like People's Choice comedy show, the whatever, you know, and all that stuff. But what it did was it taught me how to make television, because I had no idea how to do television. I had no idea what I was doing. So we made a lot of mistakes and, you know, we had problems, but I learned a lot. And I decided then, I go, I kind of like this because I don't know what I'm doing. And and the money's real and the reach is real. And I have a platform that I can actually maybe do something good, you know, make some change, not just make money, but make some change. Because I always wanted to do stuff in Indian country. And if you saw my film Rumble, I talk about that, how Randy Castillo used to take me back to Indian country to keep balance. And so it's a light bulb went up for my head, and I go, this is something I can do. And that's how my career in television started.
And so Rumble, let's talk about that a little bit. So you make this documentary. Who wrote it?
Well, I'll tell you a bit about Rumble real quick. There's a few twists to it. Okay. First of all, opening for the Rolling Stones in Canada in 2003, maybe, or 2004. I can't remember. Maybe 2004. This giant show. It was in the Guinness Book of World Record. 500,000 people played. It was a SARS stock gig because they had a pandemic of their own in Canada, which is ironic, of SARS, like what we've just gone through, just in Canada. It didn't cross the border for some reason. I don't know why. So tourism in Canada was down. They put on this massive concert. The Stones came to play. I got asked to play. I went up there and I met this native guy called Brian Wright McLeod, he writes books. And he was creating this thing called the Encyclopedia of Native American Recorded Music or something like that. And it was an in-depth encyclopedia of any indigenous person who ever made a record in North American Indians, going all the way back to wax cylinders in 1908. And he wanted me in his book. And while I was talking to him, he sat me down and he started talking to me about Link Ray, and he started talking to me about Jessia Davis and Buffy St. Marie, and a lot of these people who I knew their names. Like I was playing Jessia Davis's guitar parts with Rod Stewart because he played with Rod Stewart way before me. I just didn't know he was a Native American. And I thought to myself, if I don't know he's Native American, I mean, I know Native people do. And I started to get this idea. I go, I want to do something with these Native musicians to give Native people some role models that are part of more of today's world and not from 125 years ago. And so I thought, make a coffee book, or I could do something. I got to bring some awareness about these musicians so Native people can go, wow, this Robbie Robertson is a Mohawk Indian and he's famous. Maybe I can be famous. And what I did is I met a guy called Tim Johnson, who was the head of the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian. I was giving a speech at the studio on Six Nations where we built the Dolby Atmos system recently. We built a recording studio there first. And I gave this little speech, and he said, you like this whole thing about the native and the mainstream coming to Indian country thing. I said, because that's my shtick, And he goes, come down and visit me at the museum, at the National Museum of American Indian in Washington, D.C. I want to talk to you. So I flew to D.C. and we saw the museum. And then he goes, let's go see the museum in New York the same afternoon. So we jumped on a train and went to New York to see the museum there that same day. And I told him about these native musicians. And he just looked at me and goes, we should create an exhibit on this. And I was like, yeah, why not? So call me up, just like the TV person did. He goes, okay, we got a budget, let's do it. And I went to work for the Smithsonian, and I showed up the first day in Washington, D.C. with my surf trunks and flip-flops. And I sat in this first meeting. They put together this whole team of researchers, and I was there. And, in my t-shirt and my flip-flops and my surf trunks. And they're like, okay, let's write some stuff down. And then I didn't have a pencil, I didn't have a backpack, I didn't have anything, right? And they thought that was so weird. But it started this relationship at the Smithsonian, and I created this exhibit with the Smithsonian. It was supposed to be a 3-month short run just to show some merit, some indigenous people who have done some good things. Well, it ended up, they didn't want Randy Castillo from Ozzy Osbourne in the exhibit because it was like too lowbrow for the Smithsonian, and I had to fight. And I won that battle, and the museum opened up the exhibit, and they would call me and go, oh my God, there's tons of kids, these weirdo looking kids, metalheads that are lined up to come in the museum to see that Randy Castillo's drum set. And they realized that they at the Smithsonian were missing out on a lot of people by not appealing to the youth. And so I became at the Smithsonian, that sort of was my thing, my exhibit became the biggest exhibit they'd ever had. And they extended it to 6 months, and they had to stop because they had an exhibit already scheduled to go in. And so we moved it to New York. We made it 4 times bigger, and it ran for a year. And it was a huge. And so then I said, I got to make a film about it. So I knew a little bit about television. I went to Canada. I met some producers in Montreal that had made a film called Real Injun that had done really well. It was about the Hollywood's portrayal of Native Americans in history. White guys with red paint on their face and all that stuff. And I started the film Rumble, and that's how it happened.
I love it. Oh my God. I didn't know any of this stuff. So now you've got a bunch of projects.
We did a deal. I pitched it at a place called Hot Docs. And it was the first time I ever pitched, really. And I pitched it to every network, and every network said yes, which was really weird because I had access because of the Smithsonian. It had so much credibility. And in the Smithsonian, I had a ton of rock stars in the exhibit helping. So they knew that we had access. But it was made, we did the deal with PBS because all I wanted to do was make a real credible doc for PBS that had credibility for Native people only. I never thought of it as a mainstream film. But what happened was we made it. It came out, it got into Sundance and won Sundance. And then the whole world went batshit crazy. Everything the whole world just changed. It was nuts.
Well, I just love that I saw when it came on Netflix, it was in the top, like right then. I'm like, okay, I got to get you to come on and chat with us. And
perfect timing, right? It came out on Netflix. We didn't even know it was coming on Netflix. It's been on Amazon Prime for a long time. The movie came out, it won Sundance in 2017. So it's already an old movie, but it's like brand new again. My phone is just blowing up now since it came on Netflix. It's nuts.
And you're being interviewed in the commercial spots on there. It's like, oh, okay, let's get you on here. So let's talk about.
I like the one they used on Amazon Prime better because it had Robbie Robertson and everything. I didn't want me to be that guy. It wasn't.
I did.
I was trying to not be the guy trying to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't even like being in the film when they put that footage of me and Rod Stewart in there, but I understood the director, Catherine, said I had to be in there to establish the fact that I knew what I was talking about when I came to the subject or something like that.
Yeah. Well, also, that you are the subject matter expert. It's that simple.
I wouldn't say an expert. I'm good at winging
it. Subject matter, winging it kind of guy. So let's talk about your current projects, and then I'm going to start opening up the room so people can say hi to you. So tell us what you got going on now.
What do I have going on now? Let me think. I got a lot going on. I have a film company called Seeing Red Six Nations on the Six Nations Indian Reservation. I have a new film out called The Water Walker that was just at TIFF. And I'm mostly working on scripted now. I have a writing partner named Kevin Monroe. And we have 2 projects out right now. And he wrote and directed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He was a director and a writer for George Lucas. And he did a movie that was my son's favorite movie. That's how I met him. It was called Ratchet and Clank. And luckily, I found out he was a Canadian. I was looking for a Canadian writer, and he lived in Malibu. And luckily, he knew who I was as a musician, so he agreed to meet me for lunch. And now he's my writing partner, and he's an amazing director. And my other directing partner is a guy called Robert Stromberg, who directed Maleficent with Angelina Jolie. And we're working on all these really great projects, and that's mostly what I'm doing. And I'm also playing guitar in a band called the MC5, which is like this legendary band from the 60s and early 70s. Wayne Kramer called me, and he's in Rumble. And so I agreed to do it. So, and playing with the MC5 is just kind of cool. And then I have a project in Japan called the StevieSalas that makes platinum albums, and we go there and play, multiple nights in sports arenas, which enables me to make a ton of money so I can come back and lose it all making films.
Heck yeah. The gentleman you did the Chubby tour with, what's his name? Inaba?
Yeah, Inaba. Yeah, it was the Chubby Groove tour. Yeah. Yeah, we do stupid stuff with Inaba. We do word plays on the English language because we called the album Chubby Groove because it sounded so stupid. And then the whole Inaba is the biggest selling star in the history of Japan. Just so you know, Koshi Inaba sold over 100 million records there. And he's just been my buddy forever. And he was in a writer's slump. He couldn't write. He was uninspired. And he called me one day and said, "Do you want to come to Tokyo and write?" And I'm like, "Sure." So I jumped on a plane, went to Tokyo, we started writing. And then we started recording these songs just for fun. And I go, "Let's go record in Nashville," because he'd never recorded anywhere but Tokyo. And then we go, "Let's go record."
Wow.
We start traveling around the world and recording. And he was seeing the world and having fun. But then the album came out and went gold in one day. And it was just massive. And so he goes, "We got to tour." So we started touring. And the whole country of Japan had a debate in the newspapers about what the word chubby meant. Chubby, what is chubby? Fat. Oh, fat can be cool. Not, is that cool fat or just a fat person? It was like a whole thing. So we have fun with that kind of stuff.
Oh, I love it. Well, let's do this. Okay, everybody, I want you to turn your cameras on so we can start working around the room saying hi. We're going to start with Mama T, who likes to take a snapshot. So she's going to grab her camera and do her selfie. So Mama T, please introduce yourself to StevieSalas.
How are you?
Oh, there you go.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm so excited to hear your story. And actually, Heather has shared some of the old days with me and with Rod Stewart, and I've heard your name a lot. So it's awesome to finally meet you. And welcome to We, and thank you so much for joining us. As Heather said, I like to do a snapshot. So I do a screen snapshot, whatever. I'm using a Mac today, so I do Control-Alt-4. And if you want to if you would just want to smile, I'm kind of a techie too. Smile big. Oh, and
does everybody have to smile or just me?
Oh, just you. So what I do is I pin my picture and I pin your picture. And so it kind of looks like we're together, which is kind of cool. And then we do a selfie. All right. So are you ready?
Yeah, she.
All right. I got you. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. So again, thank you. No, beautiful teeth, by the way. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm going to call on the next person. Patricia, you want to unmute yourself? There you go.
Hi, I'm Patricia. I have a little puppy here, so if you hear some weird noises, that's Stella.
That's okay.
But it's really been a pleasure to meet you. I'm a huge P-Funk fan. Oh my God, I haven't heard that in a long time, but I love your music career, and I can't believe you don't like Bill and Ted's Great Adventure. I loved that movie, but I'm a product of the 80s, so, but yeah, I'm definitely going to look for that.
I saw it, and I went with my girlfriend at the time when it came out in the theater, and I saw it, and I was cringing, and I thought it was the worst horrible movie. I go, this thing's going to bomb, and then it made $1 billion. I was like, oh my God.
It was awesome. I loved it. The second one and the other ones, I like the first one a lot.
I do too. Anyway, it's a pleasure. Thank you for being a part of our group today.
Thanks, Patricia. Teresa, you usually have some great questions, so come on, girl.
Hey, Sal, Stevie, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for sharing with us. I think my question today is just growing up in South Dakota, I had quite a bit of exposure to Indigenous music and Indigenous culture, which I think is a huge benefit. But how would you like to bring more Indigenous culture out to the broader world?
Well, there's two things that happens, right? Okay. You have Indigenous music, which is like powwow music, and then you have Indigenous melodies, like Jimi Hendrix said when he wrote Little Wing and he wrote Castles Made of Sand, he was attempting to write an Indigenous melody. So you have that, which is influence. But then when you have Indigenous music, you have, to me, Indigenous music is powwow music, really. That's our own Indigenous music. But so then you have great bands, like Indigenous from South Dakota. They're really playing blues music and rock music. And the problem that I see that always happens is, like in Canada, the Junos or whatever, they have Indigenous music. And a band like a guy like Mateau from South Dakota is an insane guitar player, right up there with Stevie Ray Vaughan. He's not in the same category as Stevie Ray Vaughan. He gets in the Indigenous category. And that kind of stuff bothers me, because he's being separated out from where he is. He's making a rock record, and he should be in the rock category. And a lot of the Indigenous stuff, the more we separate it out like that, of all cultures, I think it's heading in a bad way. I think that collaboration is really the key to growth. And so I tell Indigenous musicians all the time, I go, you don't want to be the best Indigenous musician. You want to be the best you can be in the global game. And I try to set that example my whole life. I never tried to be Indian guitar player. I was a guitar player who was Native American. I was not a Native American guitar player. And that's what I speak to a lot of the kids and a lot of the people about in Indian country. The other thing that's weird about South Dakota, though, is, I don't know if you know this, but they have a law up there that says, unless you have your own mailbox address, you're not allowed to vote. But they purposely set up the Indian reservations up there where they don't have any mailbox addresses. So they're not allowed to vote. It's like a whole thing going on. That's the big crazy thing for me in South Dakota right now.
Wow. Thanks, Teresa. So she's with TK Architects. Let's hop over to Jim Cook. Jim Cook usually has something fun to say too.
Hey, Stevie. Sorry, I had to take a call during a lot of what you're talking about there, but what I did catch, it was great to hear your story, calling in from Vancouver, Canada on the West Coast. So nice to hear lots of your stories about Canada. I did read a little bit.
Are you in Vancouver?
Yeah, in Vancouver.
Oh, because I was moving my family to Victoria Island. I was buying a house there, and the pandemic hit, and my son's mother said, I don't want to go there, it's too small. But I almost was going to be your neighbor. We're Canadians as well now. Canada gave us, so I'm dual citizens now. So they made my son a dual citizen and the whole bit. So we're both now.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm going over to the island here on Monday. So I'm looking forward to going to what would have been your home.
Yeah.
But I was reading on your wiki that you did Dead and Gone with Justin Timberlake and Ti.
Did. Yeah, I forgot. I did Justin Timberlake and Ti. I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that song.
A lot of them I've done, I don't remember. But yeah, I did that one. And do you like that song?
Yeah, I love it.
You want a little story about that song?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm in the studio in LA working on a record. I get a call from a guy called Jean-Marie Horvat, who did like Michael Jackson, Remember the Time, and all this. He's a big engineer mixer guy. And he says, Justin Timberlake's trying to find you to play guitar on the stuff. He's at the record plant. And I go, well, I'm down the street from the record plant. I'm in LA right now. And he goes, can you go by tonight? And I go, yeah, I'll come by at 10 o'clock. So I go by, I meet Justin Timberlake. I don't know what he wants to work on. He's in the studio. He's got all his music up. We start talking. And I just start playing on the stuff. And there's this guy there, and he's got some Chinese food. And he's eating. And I thought he was an assistant at the record plant, but it was Ti. I didn't know who the hell Ti was. And because I did Public Enemy, Welcome to the Terror Dome. So I mean, I told you earlier, I had my run-ins with hip hop music, and I loved the early hip hop, but I didn't know too much about the new guys so much, right? And I didn't know who Ti was, but he didn't say anything about Ti. I was just playing with Justin, and he was working on some tracks with this guy who had the Chinese food. So I don't think nothing of it. I do 2 tracks. We have a good time, blah, blah, blah. I split and I forget all about it. And then I go to Europe, and my tech calls me and he goes, do you remember that stuff that we worked on with Justin Timberlake? And I go, yeah. And he goes, I think that's the #1 song in the world right now. And I go, what? He goes, in the world. And I go, hang on, I'm in Germany or Austria. I flip on Viva, they're like MTV. And sure shit, right there, bam, there's that song. I goes, that's the song I played on, huh? He goes, yeah. And it was Ti, Dead and Gone, with Justin Timberlake. And it was the #1 song and #2 song in most of the world. And I got the double platinums, and the double platinum singles are sending me all this shit. And all the kids now are like, StevieSalas, respect, bro. All the street kids that I talked to in Indian country, especially, bro, Ti, man, respect. I didn't have the nerve to tell them. I had no idea who the hell he was. So I just let it on, like, yeah, Ti's cool, man. Yeah, it's all good, man. Yeah, and I don't say much, because the kids then will listen to me when I tell them, hey, man, you need to take care of your kid, or you need to, you got to, pay your taxes, or I can talk to them and they'll listen to me because they think that I know something, because I have this credibility because I did Ti. So it worked really good for me as a mentor to kids, but I didn't know who the hell he was. So, and I'm glad I did it.
Thank you for sharing
I
that.
love it. Tina, you're the best. Marie Zablocki, come on in, girlfriend, say hello.
Hi there. Thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing a little bit of Heather's story too. That was fun to hear.
Oh, I could share a lot more, but
There you go. Not really a question. I just, what stood out to me by a lot of your story, and I think it's just like a good reminder for me and probably for a lot of us. You didn't wait to be perfect at something before you took a leap, right? You went for things. Yeah, and I love that. And kind of, and it sounds like sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But if it didn't, you just kept going. So
you know what? Some of that is called ignorance, and it's good. Slim Jim Phantom is one of my best friends in the world, this drummer of the Stray Cats. He's like my brother. And I met him in '88, and we've just been the best friends. And Slim said to me one time, he goes, I was too stupid to know I wasn't good enough to make it. So I made it. That's what he says. I was just too dumb to know I wasn't good enough. And so I just did it. And it made a lot of sense to me. My big thing is I like to be the stupidest guy in the room, the dumbest guy in the room. I really like to be the dumbest guy in the room, surrounded by amazing people. And then I ride that up. And it also, nobody's perfect at anything. A lot of times my imperfections is why Rod Stewart got me, because I did not play like the guys that played Rod Stewart music. George Clinton hired me because I did not play like the guys that played funkadelic music. I played something different. And the great people are looking for growth and not inward. The lame ones with big egos are looking for inward, telling how great they are forever. And those guys usually can't crash and burn because they don't advance. There's no growth. And so, yeah, surround yourself with great people. And what the hell, you don't have no idea if what you do might be, like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing on Ti Dead and Gone. I mean, just played. It was like, I played some weird harmonic stuff that you'd probably play with Herbie Hancock or something more than Justin Timberlake. And that stuff worked for them. So, yeah, I don't know. Awesome. I think ignorance is bliss. And if you're too cocky, then you're probably not seeing. There's a difference between cockiness and confidence. You can be confident in what you do, and you do what you do great. And if it doesn't work, so what? You can sleep at night because I didn't grow my hair like Poison and try to play the guitar like CeCe DeVille just to make some money and then hate myself for it, right? But maybe that would have got me rich faster, or would have got me somewhere quicker, more famous. You got to stick to your roots and who you are, but just do the best you can, and then you can sleep at night. And then you got to get lucky, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you did so good. Thank you. I'm going to keep moving. Rebecca Pale, she's always got a good question too.
Well, really, thanks for joining us. And really, I just want some recommendations as someone who has been in the scene. What are the best like movies and TV shows about that era and like rock culture that get it right?
Oof, let me think about that. The rock stuff's tough because, first of all, when they make scripted, docudramas, like, La Bamba and those kind of movies, they're tough because for some reason, they're always a little corny. And like I wrote a book, I had a book came out and I was going to use a co-writer friend of mine that grew up with me and knew me. And I started to write, send him all my memoirs and all my stuff. And then he started writing and he tried to talk like me. And it was so lame. It was just like, I would never say that. And I'm going to be so embarrassed so I ended up having to write it all myself. And what he did is he's an editor and he added in all these great tidbits that made my story better, but he couldn't write it for me. And so the problem with a lot of docudramas is a writer writes them and he thinks, hey, those guys are totally kick ass. And then the actor says, and it just sounds wrong. You know, Steven Tyler would never say it like that. He might say that.
That's why I think
You know
that's
what I
why Walk Hard is the best music biopic, because
Yeah,
it's a parody and it's, you know.
It's a parody, so we're all like a joke, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, it's better to make fun of us. My show Arbor Live, the comedy show I did in Canada, we did. We totally just made fun of ourselves, and it was much more fun. But there are some great docs. I'm just trying to think, what is a great music doc? See, I really like documentaries, and I love more ones. Like I love Joe Namath's doc, and I end up liking more of the sports guys docs because as a musician, it sounds weird because I was always a jock. And I am very competitive, and my super successful musician friends are super competitive. I mean, Mick Jagger is super competitive. He wants to kick everyone's ass. Steven Tyler, he wants to blow everyone's mind. And the sports docs relate to me more than the music docs, especially the new musicians that are like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. When someone said to me once, there's no competition in the arts. I'm like, bullshit. It's like, I still love Phil X, but he embarrassed me on stage one time, and I'm going to kick his ass next time. And it makes me better. And it makes him better. It makes Richie Kotzen better. You know, Terrence Trent D'Arby wants to, you know, my mom said to Terrence Trent D'Arby after a concert in San Diego, we were opening for Duran Duran. She came backstage and she goes, God, you're so elegant. And he's like, hugs her. And she goes, I like your voice better than Rod Stewart's. And he goes, oh, I mean, it meant something to him. You think like, oh, it really did. So, you know, we're competitive. That's why I like the sports docs better. And I'd like to see better rock docs made, you know. If you find out any good ones too, I should watch, send them to Heather and have her tell me.
Yeah, that's right. And I put it, the link to his book, When We Were the Boys, is in the chat.
Oh, cool.
Okay, I'm going to pop down. Yeah, put it in the chat for the.
Huh? Don't let kids read that book, by the way. It's a rock memoir about the year in my life with Rod Stewart, actually.
Yeah, I can buy it. I'm going to pop down to Melissa Boudreau and I'll work back the other way. Melissa, can you hop off camera or on camera?
Just walked in from traveling. Just wanted to say hi. So sorry I missed the beginning of the talk, but hello everyone. Thank you, Stevie, for being here. And I hope everyone's having a good day.
Thanks. Melissa. Sandy Holmes.
Just always interesting. Great to hear, Stevie. Very exciting. I mean, just again, inspirational, because what you're doing is going and going and going. And that's what we all have to do. So grateful to hear you and continue to see and hear you.
Cool. Thank you, Sandy. Susan Erlos.
Sure,
Susan, we can hear you. Susan?
Oh,
she's not muted. She hopped off. Susan?
Maybe she's going to the bathroom or something.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Susan. Deanna, unmute.
Okay,
there you go.
Hey, everybody. It's great to meet everyone. This is actually my first We Speaker series event. So, and I'm new to We. So, hello, everybody.
Hi, Deanna. Thanks for coming.
I don't have any questions, but when I got the link and came on, I'm like, oh my God, I know that guy. So it was really kind of cool to be able to like hear your story and, you know, see what you're up to and what you're going to be doing. And, you know, just to put a little plug in there, let me know if you need anything. And but yeah, your story is amazing. And I'm actually going to go do more research on you just to kind of understand a little bit more about what you've been up to and what you've been doing and what you're going to do in the future. So thank you for being here, and thank you everybody for inviting me.
Thanks,
awesome.
Deanna.
Hey,
Carrie
for
D.
me, just so you know, Heather, if everybody, the more everybody can, when they see Rumble, they can post about it in social media and talk about it. The more people to see Rumble, for me, Rumble is my baby, and I want people to understand that what Rumble is talking about is an unwritten part of American history. We use the music really as the TNA, so to speak, to get you in to watch it. But what Rumble's really talking about is the development in North America from all the forgotten people that were sort of left out of the story. Everybody took credit for all these things. And what Rumble really does, I mean, let's face it, all the greatest food was created by the collaborations of mostly poor people. natives with African slaves and Irish people that were, Scottish people that were looked down upon. And those people, a lot of those people created a flavor of what became the United States of America. And that's the real deep meaning behind Rumble, is that the collaboration of these people that were downtrodden, or how this country became great, right?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm gonna go Carrie, and then I'm gonna go to Sandy. So Carrie?
Hi all, how are you?
Hey, Carrie.
Good, Stevie, thanks for being here. Your story is great. I can't wait to go check out Rumble. I am in a Canadian Indian as well, a Blackfoot. So we had some interesting forced family trips to reservations and such, which I didn't appreciate when I was young, but of course became part of the family fabric after a lot of years. So I'm interested to check it out. Your story is amazing. Thanks for being here. I guess I'd wonder, is your son interested at all in music or movies or any of the things that you do?
It's kind of weird. He's been surrounded by it his whole life since the day he was born, and we moved to Austin, Texas when I was living in Carlsbad, California, and I had a house in a place called Niagara on the Lake in Ontario, Canada. And we were living there when he was getting ready to start school, and his mother was adamant he has to go to a Waldorf school. I didn't want to live where any of the Waldorf schools were until I went to Austin, Texas, and ran into a bunch of my old rock star friends that I knew in LA and London, and during my early years of my rock and roll life. And it was a fun town, and the Waldorf school was great. So we moved to Austin. I bought a house next to the Waldorf school, pretty much around the corner. And my son went to this Waldorf school where they I should say forced you, I guess. He had to play every year. They had to play certain instruments because it was all part of the brain development of certain things. So he was playing cello and pulla, and he's playing, percussion and playing all these different things his whole life. So he loves music and he's really good at it. But he's not like, I want to be a musician for my career. He reads lots of books and all that stuff. He's also he used to come on the set of American Idol and hang out. We'd have to stop Adam Lambert's rehearsal so he'd sit behind the drum and play a little bit, or he'd have a meltdown. So, he was around, Steven Tyler texts my son. He doesn't text me. Oh, tell Shane, I'm glad he liked the Skittles commercial, he said. It came out way better than I thought it would, It's like he texts my son, Steven Tyler. He's like so unaffected by anything. He hangs out with Bernard Fowler and the Rolling Stones. And it's just like, I took him to Metallica because I play in a band with Robert Trujillo from Metallica called Mass Mental, this weird jam band. We do Lollapalooza and stuff. And we're at the side stage with his best friend who's flying out tomorrow, matter of fact. They're coming out to San Diego tomorrow with the rest of our vacation. And his best friend's freaking out with his best friend's dad. And I hear my son on the side of my ear saying, oh, obviously, you don't know what it's like to go to my dad. So he's just like not impressed. He doesn't care. And it's just part of his life. So
sounds like a cool kid.
Yeah, he's really level-headed. He's like, he's not affected at all.
He's cool.
Or impressed, by the way. Not impressed either. He's just like, whatever.
Okay, I'm going to try to get through as many more as we can. Sandy.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you. Also, to say two things really. Me being really old, I like to listen to Heather speakers because what I would like to say to the youngsters who are coming up and who are so to start with, they're excited about doing something and then they get knocked off course. And I think that when you listen to people like you, your difference and the other speaker's difference is that you get up, you dust yourself off and you try something else. And I think the youngsters really should start to understand that with the hard work and following their gut, provided they love what they do, they'll end up doing something really, really amazing. It will be totally different to what they wanted to do or what they thought they were going to do, but they will be in a totally different place. And I wish we could actually put that down to the youngsters to say, look, when life gets tough, you've just got to get up and get on with it, And I think the more I listen to people like you that have done that, I think it's a real good role model for the youngsters coming through.
think that all the young people I speak to, I think because of the way media is or the way their parents told them that you know, I believe in anything is possible, but at the same time, they also believe that they kind of expect it to be possible. And when it's not, it's a devastating thing to them. And they can't under why. I don't know if it's because everyone wins now. You're not allowed to lose at anything. You know, I don't know what it is, and I don't want to be that guy, you know, in my day, because I'm 100 years old now too. But it's like you got to get your ass kicked every once in a while to get up and figure out how, you know what I mean? Because if you win, it doesn't feel so good if you win all the time. So
Yeah.
that could be it. I don't know. You know, everybody's expecting. I talk to a lot of my friends own companies now, and they're like, God, I can't find anyone to work. A kid comes in, he wants to start at 150 grand a year, and he wants a raise in 6 months, and he expects a promotion right away. And he hasn't even, you know, and he doesn't want to do the mail room or what, you know what I mean? It's like, it's really weird out there. It's like, you know, like I said, I slept in a closet. I did whatever I had to do for the big picture. And it wasn't like, well, for me, it was like, this is awesome. So I know what you're saying, and I don't know what the remedy is. It's really, I think it's a problem, though it is a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, kids don't even want to go to work now. Kids, I don't know how they, you know, maybe so many parents have done well now that they can support their kids. And like Austin's full of the empty condos downtown where these parents would buy these condos and nobody's in them. They're buying them for their kids. And I don't know. So I don't know, because I can't say it because I'd do anything for my kid too. But, you know, I don't know. It's really a tough one. That's a tough one.
Well, it's just good that, you know, we're appreciating that things in your life just didn't come easy. And like, I've known you this whole time. I didn't even know part of your struggle, Stevie. I just, you know.
Nothing comes that easy. I mean, but it's just how much you just,
well,
how
social
much
media makes people think it's easy, right? We just post our good points, right? No one sees how many times you fucked up the sandwich before you made it right.
I make it look easy. That's for sure. It's never that easy, but you know, but then again, it isn't that hard because if you love what you're doing, it's mountain Rod. Okay, Rod Stewart again. Rod Stewart, I love Rod Stewart. You know, a lot of people make fun of Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart was so good to me. He was going to sell me this Mercedes Benz. I used to see him driving around in 1987 in this, the most radical looking Mercedes Benz I've ever seen in my life. And I go, God, that car is insane. And Rod Stewart would get out of it. And it's like, that's my dream. So one day I'm sitting on a jet with him and I said, you ever had that old Mercedes? He goes, yeah, I still got it. Matter of fact, I'm putting it for sale. You want to buy it? And I go, yeah. And so I'm going to buy it. So I get the money. I go over to see him to buy it. And he goes, I'm not selling you my car. And I go, what do you mean? Because I'm not going to sell you my car. He goes, when I was a kid, I got one chance to do a record. And I did a song called Reason to Believe. It was a single. And the flip side was a song called Maggie May. And he goes, I took the money from that single and I bought a flat. So that way, if this thing bombs, at least I have a place to live. And luckily a DJ turned the record over and Maggie May played, and that became this hit because it wasn't supposed to be the hit. You know, so fate worked out for Rod. But so he told me, take that money and go buy a house. And that's what I did. I went down to Del Mar and I bought my first house with that money. And you know, Rod Stewart gave me this great advice about that kind of stuff. You know,
That's cool. All right, we got a couple more. Valerie Morris, say hi.
Hello there. I just really love your story. I think that, you know, it inspires people to want to just continue working hard, because it seems like you always set the bar high for yourself. So you always set the bar, you know, much higher, which is good, you know. I had actually had a friend that sung background. Well, she went on tour with Rod Stewart, but she started in 2006. It probably was before you started, but
way after me. I was in 88.
Yeah. And she sung on American Idol too. It was background, real good friend of mine. So it's just good to, you know, hear stories from other people about Rod Stewart. He sounds like a really great person. I just wanted to ask you, what is the top 3 characteristics that keep you motivated, I guess?
I need to be inspired, not by wealth, but by people, creative people, or people with a good heart. And the other things that motivate me are like, I see people now that feel bad. Like someone goes, oh, his father's so rich and he's on drugs and he's having a really tough time. And I feel really bad. I'm like, I feel bad for that fucking guy.
Yeah.
I go to the Special Olympics and watch that kid who's missing his leg, running his ass off, trying to get down and win that race and get inspired by that. I can't stand people who feel bad for people. You know, I can understand for a minute. Okay, you had a rough, you got your ass kicked real quick. Get up, let's get it. But when people sit around and they're like, oh, you know, his father's just so rich, and it's like, and he doesn't talk to him. And, you know, I mean, come on, those are bad things, but it's like, I that kind of shit pisses me off. And so I search for people to inspire me, and it's inspiring people. Not for me personally to be inspired, but I see them and I get inspired by them, and that gives me a real motivation to be grateful. You know, I'm really great. I don't have a perfect life at all, but I mean, I'm very grateful. And I know how lucky I am. You know, and I work hard for it, but it's not hard work if you love it, right?
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, a couple more. Sammy, I'm gonna pop down to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Valerie.
Thank you.
Sammy, you're on mute. Sammy. I'll scoot over to Susan. Susan.
I'm so sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I couldn't agree with you guys more, especially about like surrounding yourself with people and the whole workforce and like just where we're at with like kids. It really touched me when you're like, you know, I was just in Los Angeles and I was living out of a closet. Just thank God, you know, a suitcase and a bed could fit in there, because I remember like going to college and being like, well, I'm just so excited to be here. It doesn't matter how big my dorm room is. And like meeting people that they were like, I can't believe I actually have to share a room with someone. Like my room with like, this is the size of my bathroom. You know? Like,
yeah.
And I just find it so refreshing and like honest to like have these conversations like that. And like, you've been so all over the place, right? And you're just still so humble. And I really appreciate that about you.
Well, Sammy, I wouldn't want to leave the closet now, though. I tell you that.
I know, right? Well, yeah, of course, right? But like, you know, like just being in that position though, and like knowing where I don't want to say where you've come from, but like the things that, you know, when you've gotten kicked to the ground and you're like, okay, well, this is where it is, right? Like making ends meet and we're going to be better instead of just that spoonfulness or that need of this is it. So
I tell you, I went through a really bad spell in the 2000 stock market crash. I never invested in the stock market. I knew nothing about stocks. My parents were not wealthy people. They knew nothing about stocks. And I decided to listen to some people, and I put $1 million in the stock market, and I didn't enjoy one penny of that money ever. And it goes in the market, and I'm pretty sure I'm kicking ass. Oh, my Qualcomm's just split 8 times. Oh, this is easy. I got this down, and bam, I lost everything just about. And I was really, really devastated by that. And it was hard for me to get back up from that. That was the toughest thing ever, because I felt so stupid. And it was hard to save that much money playing guitar, you know? So, I mean, everybody goes through some bad stuff, but I always tell Native kids, it's how you respond when things are bad that makes a legend, and not how you respond when you're kicking ass. You know what I mean? So it's a big part of it, I think.
No, I totally agree with you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sammy.
No,
so
thank you.
Irina is how you say it? Irina N?
Irina.
Is she there?
I'm here.
There you are. So patient. Hi, Irina.
Hi. So, I loved this whole thing. It's really cool to see that no matter where you are in your journey, there's still places you can go lower and places you can go higher. And at the end of the day, it is how you respond to it. So it was really cool to hear that, how humbling it is. So I would do appreciate that.
Cool.
Sure.
Okay, we're going to drop down to Fred, and then Susan, if you don't hop on, we're just going to go without you. So Fred, are you able to talk?
Hi. Hi, Stevie. I've
I'm
heard
looking.
a lot of great stories from Heather about you. So I'm really excited to like hear more about you today, and you really delivered. So I just want to take this opportunity to like thank you for like all that you've done to like represent like minorities. It's awesome to like see people of color like rocking it out there.
And I told him about your nickname, Stevie, the creepy mouse. He said that sounded scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Without like the context of the story, it sounds scary.
It was like a joke. We used to camp on the beach in Mexico, and the creepy mouse would come out at night. You know, like whatever, we too much tequila and all. Yeah.
And mushrooms.
Yeah. I didn't want to say.
That's okay. Yeah, I am a creepy mouse. So he's been my creepy mouse since probably 90. So we've been friends, and I'm creepy Heather and he's creepy Stevie, and we have a few other creepies, but that's a friendship we've had since eternity and very special to me. Susan, this is your last chance. If you don't hop on, we're going to say goodbye. Susan, are you there?
Well,
there she is.
all the big people talk. I'm a
Okay.
nobody.
No, you're not.
Last time I saw Stevie, like, I don't know, what, 95, 96?
What's that? What's that?
Well, when Heather was living in the same place as you and Terrence.
Did you visit that house?
Yeah. Yep, I did. I had you had played with Bootsy and George Clinton. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
This guy really, really, really broke a lot of molds. Fantastic. How long have you been in Austin now?
Hey, I'm just going to tell you something, Susan. People talked about years later, like, oh, I made all the right choices. George Clinton and Bootsy Collins and Was Not Was. And all that. Was Not Was in 1987. Everybody, like, again, was listening to Bon Jovi and Motley Crue. I'm a young kid wanting to rock. I'm playing with two older African-American guys singing and two older Jewish guys. It's the weirdest thing, and doing this weird music. And I did that because that's the only person that called me to ask me to play on a record and pay me. I didn't know I was groundbreaking, this super cool thing that was going to go number one, and Don Wells was going to become the most famous producer in the world. And I produced a track with Don on the record, which made me cool too. It was like fate. When I wrote my book, I started to write it, and I realized that everything that happened to me led to something that wouldn't have happened. Like when I was in my worst places sometimes, like being homeless. If I wasn't homeless, I wouldn't have met George Clinton. So maybe George Clinton gave me a credibility for my whole career to this day still. So, I realized that some of these things are you just got to let things happen, because I couldn't orchestrate that. Now they act like I orchestrated. Oh man, you picked all the right stuff. I didn't pick those guys. Those are the only people that would pay me at the time. I didn't, it was like the gods were leading my way. And so, yeah, I like to think like, yeah, I picking racehorses. I'm just like a Mr. Magoo, going through and the bombs are exploding around me. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice that. Sorry.
Mr. Magoo. Our grandfather was the executive producer of Mr. Magoo.
There you go.
Yep. All right. So this is going to call the end of our awesome chat. Stevie, thanks for taking a little extra time with us.
Sure.
Women in Exhibition is a global nonprofit. So we support the women that are the cinema exhibitors, the studio distribution companies, and then all the support vendors that we work with in exhibition. And our group is here to support each other, shine a spotlight, provide mentoring and networking. And these speaker series are a way for us to connect with interesting people like you. And I thought these people are going to love you, and you did not disappoint, Stevie.
Oh, thank you.
So
thank you guys. Thanks for having me. And you guys just keep spreading that good stuff, man. And then Heather, please, privately on the side, I want to meet your Opmos person, because I need some advice on our Opmos room up on the Indian Reservation.
I look forward to with Mike Archer. He'll be happy to hear that. Okay.
Awesome.
Good night, everybody. Or good day.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao. Bye now.